everyone. Greetings and hello from the CMTK Talk Hour podcast. I am your co host, CM Kozuman, joined here after a long absence by TK Sivgin.
Hello.
And it's been a while, so what's happened in the intervening month or so, or 2 months? Take it away, man. Let's hear it from you.
Well, you have been a bit it has taken us a while to record a new episode because you have been a bit busy at home and didn't have the right conditions to record, and also I've been repeatedly sick.
Oh my, I hope you get better.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still a little bit right now, but it's okay. Don't worry about me.
What's wrong though?
It there is this a sort of flu going around in Switzerland that attacks the middle ear and such.
Oof.
So for a time I actually had hearing problems because of it, and also just general fever, weakness, joint pain, regular flu symptoms.
Oh, sounds like my amazing COVID adventure from 3 years ago. It attacked my middle ear too, and I had bouts of vertigo. I hope it didn't get that bad with you though.
Vertigo? No, I didn't have that. I had to vomit once, but
Yep, same story. Well, get well soon, my friend.
Thank you.
Get well soon. So let's do the catch up. What else happened?
I nuked Rainer.
Yes,
which in retrospect, that makes the first episode of his podcast so awkward.
Yeah, let's do a recap for viewers just joining in. Rhinia was a speculative evolution project created by TK Sivgin and another party where they kind of tried to chronicle life that would evolve on an alien space station that had been abandoned for 50 million years. Imagine you leave your fridge, you go to a holiday for 50 million years, come back, there's all kinds of shit in there. So that sort of project with a space station, but I guess it was you who launched an ASAT missile and completely obliterated this project. And
well, it's not exactly what happened. So basically the other person, Bob Guan, he came up with the idea that it's on a space station at first, and we came into contact I remember we came into contact after he saw an article I wrote about brachiopods. And so he started introducing terrestrial brachiopods into his project, and I noticed, and that's how we started talking and working together. And then I became a major creative drive, actually creating fleshing out the scenario he created and creating the characters and the narration. And of course I also made a couple of creatures. And
then that's that.
And then over the last year or so, let's say we had creative differences.
Yeah.
And
well, this is life, and I mean, I guess without digging too deep into the drama zone, I guess these creative differences happen between everyone when multiple people work on a single project, and it could be something as rarefied a form of high art as speculative evolution, or it could be a regular thing at work. I mean, when you start work life, you see another dimension to this. And all I could say is that obviously there's a lot of juicy drama we could sink our teeth in, but let's rise above and let bygones be bygones, because at the end of the day, this is only a creative endeavor between people. And coincidentally, if I may interject, it's one of the reasons why I'm kind of hesitant about group projects, because
yeah, same now. I've been asked afterwards by some people, hey, do you want to participate in this and that project? And I said, hell the fuck no. No, I am not going through that shit. I'm doing my own spec UFO project with blackjack and hookers. To quote Bender from Futurama.
Well, all right, all right. Well, wishing you the best in your current existing project, especially Hard Assure. I've been observing it really keenly, and just to comment, the way you write and the way you kind of talk about science in that world is
Look, I
as
have the newest one right here. The newest
yes,
drawing.
I'm looking at the site of a fossil dig with some sort of creature. I'm not gonna reveal any descriptions, but it looks very interesting and looks like you got something like the robot from that 1990s movie Short Circuit in there.
Short. I think I know which movie you mean, but it has like a different title in German.
It's the one with the mobile eyebrows and two security camera eyes.
Like it's like a live action Wall-E almost. Like in German, it's called Nummer 5 lebt.
Yes, number 5.
Number 5 lives.
Yes.
Because it's like about this robot gaining consciousness and like falling in love with a girl.
Yeah, it was a really like nice and feel good type of movie.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of movies, I recently watched the Super Mario movie in cinemas.
Ooh, you were lucky. Well, I haven't seen that one, but I've only heard good things about it.
Have you watched the one from the 90s?
I actually love the one from the 90s, the 1993 Super Mario World.
The one where they tried to like replicate Blade Runner.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
It's really
actually, it had this like weird vibe of its own. The whole like, maybe it kind of resonated with me because basically the world depicted there with all those narrow places and people like hustling out a living in like corners. It's kind of similar to certain parts of Istanbul, especially the more decrepit regions. And I mean, I really love that film. For me, it wasn't about Mario, but they had this like bizarre world where like people ate worms and like somewhat reptilian. It had a kind of film noir atmosphere.
The backstory is so bizarre. It's like about how the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs somehow split our universe into like two separate
a pocket dimension,
alternative realities, like one where we live and the other one where the dinosaurs survived and somehow evolved into humans.
But
that's why everything in the Mario universe is kind of dinosaur themed, like with Yoshi and like Bowser is well, he's not a dinosaur in the games. He's like this. He's a dragon turtle, which is like an actual being from like Eastern mythology.
Yeah. But for the movie, I just liked how everybody was like, they like subtly dropped hints that their appearance as humans was only temporary. Like Dennis Hopper, he has this like amazing hairdo that looks like ridges on the back of some reptile.
Yeah.
And like just to drive home the point, every 5 seconds or something, like one of those post-dinosaur quasi-human creatures does this like a sort of like a speeded up head shake, or like he pokes his tongue out and it's a forked tongue and stuff. I really love how weird that was. I only wish the same crowd, the same crew, with the same toxic mindset. Also, by the way, apparently it was a really toxic film set environment there. Imagine if they did Sonic as well, and like, imagine what kind of weirdness they'd come up with.
Sonic, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen the new Sonic movies yet, but I think they kind of are. Well, they're not gritty or anything, but they take place in like our real world.
Yeah, I haven't seen them either. Apparently, Jim Carrey does a not so bad job at it.
Yeah, but I think many people say he was the best part in it, which I mean, it's not hard to imagine. He literally plays a cartoon villain, and Jim Carrey is like a cartoon that somehow morphed into our real world. Like how he can like transform his face is insane.
Yeah, I think those films, by the way, pulled Jim Carrey away from this kind of dangerous hipster oblivion zone in which he was like kind of becoming like, I'm just a guy who wants to paint and talk about vaccine hesitancy and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
right.
And
I remember.
those movies kind of like pulled him out of that nosedive.
Yeah,
So
that's yeah. You're actually right now that I think about it. That's imagine like in like 10 years, like people gonna say like Sonic saved Jim Carrey.
well, it could be. It could be. I mean, who knows? Well, about movies, I'm really looking forward to the cheesiest movie of them all, Fast and Furious 10, coming
Right.
to theaters this weekend. And just for posterity, I'm recording on the 16th of May. And actually, in 2 days, I'm going to have my birthday. So it's going to be my birthday present to see the never ending, interminable adventures of Dominic Toretto and his family. So there.
Yeah, I never watched Fast and the Furious, but
You're missing out. It's
we,
like
are they like it's like stupid fun, right?
it has, and I've recorded like somewhere in the depths of my YouTube channel. There's like a 2 hour talk about values of Fast and Furious. Basically, it's like going to imagine you've been like on a sort of vegetarian diet or like some chicken shit salad diet or stuff, and then one day you say enough, and you go to Burger King, stuff in a chicken royale with Diet Coke. That's how it feels like. It only has good feelings.
Yeah, like
And
sometimes you kind of need like a lowbrow entertainment, I think.
yes, yes.
Like I love Jackass, for example. Like I love those like movies. I love the original MTV show. Like it's
Oh,
so stupid, but it's so entertaining. And like the people there are clearly having a fun time. Well, except the ones that get like stung in the balls by bees.
I mean, they towards the end they were like going almost for like some sort of Mando Macabro type of
Yeah.
body mutilation angle,
Like
almost like
in the
they were
latest movie.
stapling.
Yeah. Like
Sorry,
in
I
the
interrupted
latest
you.
movie, like one of the most insane stunts they pulled is like they put the guy without telling him what we're gonna do into a room. Like they chained him to a chair.
Mm-hmm.
Then they put like honey on his head and like salmon on into his crotch. And then they
Mm-hmm.
just let a wild bear into the room,
Oh shit.
like an actual bear. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Maybe it's like one of those circus bears where they like pulled out all the teeth. That's a horrible practice that sadly exists. Or if it was like an actual trained animal, but like for a second it looked like the bear was gonna go for it.
The another memorable incident from that series was always there was this like small person in those films.
Yeah, wee man.
Yeah, and he was like, I think he kind of did such damage to representation of such people on screen that only with the coming of the Game of Thrones and with the cool smart character of Tyrion was his name,
Yeah.
only then was this like that guy in those movies single-handedly like typecast, the correct term is little people these days, as sort of like crazy like dwarf tossing. I don't know what he did in the films. I never watched them, but
I mean, I can't. I mean, they were like all stunt man basically, and they made just stunts based off his stature, where they threw him around. But I can't imagine that that alone would do such damaging things to
yeah,
the whole little person for me, because it's Jackass who takes that seriously.
yeah.
I think what you're maybe thinking of is maybe the guy who played Mini-Me in the Austin Powers movies.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. That
Because
was
that
like,
one is like that, because the Austin Powers is like more like acted,
mhm.
and that one that's played like way more for comedy. How small that guy is.
Mhm.
Like I think it was in the third movie where like Austin Powers just like kicks him around into his fridge.
Ah, yes. I mean, this 90s humor, I'm really kind of relieved that the Zoomers, the new generation these days, never has to grow up with that kind of stuff. Because not only was it boring, it was basically in those days, you didn't have memes on the internet, you had memes on TV and in cinema series. So all this goddamn generation of these like early millennials and late Gen Xers, they can't stop freaking quoting these things to each other. Like, oh, I find it very annoying. Like, one of the cardinal sins of my generation. I mean, the boomers may have destroyed the economy and destroyed the world, but these Gen Xers and millennials have this like crime of tastelessness to answer for. Anyways,
Mm. Yeah, like the 90s, people imagine that as like this like lost golden age because it was like the before 9/11 and after the collapse of the Cold War tensions. But yeah,
just a little bit of genocide in the Balkans, but
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
right. That also gets,
Rwanda.
yeah, exactly. That gets overlooked, and also of course like the remaining societal problems from the 80s that were still not resolved. Like people
True.
were all like, oh, we passed laws back in the 60s, so now racism doesn't exist anymore and stuff.
Like one of the things I admire about that decade is at least they had a kind of counterculture thing going on.
Definitely, yeah. That was the cool thing most people remember from the 90s. How like everything had to be like red or extreme or super. Like just look at the console names like Super Nintendo, or I think there was like a game almost called Sonic Extreme. Like Sonic is like again like a good example of like this 90s counterculture. Like like all the young kids back then didn't thought Mario was too much of a nice guy, so they wanted to play with Sonic, who like shows you the teachers the middle finger. Like I think there was a commercial where he actually did that.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you had things like, I mean, I lived through this, so like, you had a sort of left-wing based anti-system narrative in films such as Fight Club, The Matrix, or even movies like American Beauty. You had these like big like blockbuster movies warning people that the world you live in is kind of tricking you and like telling people to second guess and like think things twice. Now, sadly, that whole angle has been appropriated by right wing extremists, and it's a kind of low, like left wing, but also critical of society. Whereas if you look at the state of affairs today, many so called left wing approaches to many things scratch them a little and they kind of feel like Hillary Clinton's campaign, they feel too managed and like over-regulated. But anyways, and like it was the right stuff, but somehow the narrative got appropriated by this like wacky right-wing, quote-unquote, racist crowd. So I don't know how that's going to be.
Yeah, you just reminded me because you're talking about politics. As of recording right now, there are elections going on in Turkey.
Oh, yes, yes.
And yeah, how has that been going for you? Have you voted?
Yes, the elections have been concluded. There is going to be a second round, and it looks like the state of affairs is not going to change. And I kind of had a like whiff of this coming because the way they campaigned was basically the opposition chose a fake it till you make it approach. And they basically said, oh, we already won. Our candidate is the next president.
Yeah, like
But they were they were preaching to the choir, if you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah, yeah, like ever since the 2016 election in the US, where everyone was sure Hillary Clinton would win, like I don't trust this prognosis anymore.
Yeah. And like long story short, all I can say is that Turkey is a hopeful nation and will continue forever to remain one. So,
Yeah.
so there. That's all I could say. I mean,
I just like
it's
let me just say I just hope the country will gain some stability because we geopolitically, like, I don't want to turn this into a political podcast, obviously, but geopolitically we are, I think, in some deep shit for the next decade,
yeah, yeah.
because what is happening in Ukraine right now, I think, could very well be the ending for the Russian Federation, because they're doing this exact same mistake as the Soviet Union did when they invaded Afghanistan. Of course, and if Russia collapses into like many smaller successor states, there will be hell to pay.
Well,
Wait,
interesting angle.
wait, let me just explain to our viewers. Memo is sitting right now in an internet cafe, so you have to excuse the weird noises that are sometimes heard from his end.
Yes, yes. Well, it's a sunny day. I mean, what I'm more afraid about that whole issue is a sort of acceptance of basically high intensity warfare. So there's like a spectrum of inter-block competition ranging from like commercial competition to like basically constantly talking shit about each other, some sort of trade conflicts like the one you see between US and China. Now it seems the world has managed to kind of create a sort of contained war situation where there's like a part of the global empire, province of such and such, and they're having a war there. Like, and for our friends in Europe, that's very scary because this thing can easily spill east, especially towards places like Poland and stuff.
Yeah.
I,
Like I
I
have
really
a
don't know
Polish
what to
friend, and
say.
I have a Polish friend, and she's yeah, very scared of like the situation because she has many relatives there, and also in Belarus, which now could also be annexed. Like there's now many new rumors that that's Putin's like exit plan if he fails in Ukraine. Yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll have to live and learn. Huh? What can I say? I mean,
How dare you quote Sonic again in such a situation?
does Sonic say live and learn?
That's like a song from Sonic Adventure.
Oh shit! I never knew. I never knew. So
Now we have now a title for this episode: Sonic and the UFOs, because that's the second topic we wanted to talk about.
yes, and we haven't even spoken about UFOs yet. So in the last couple of months, I've been on a UFO bender, and first I read Whitley Strieber's Communion and its follow-up Transformation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've found that too. Apparently, he has a third book, which is just pure science fiction now. But the second book was really boring. It's
What
like
was it about?
it's again his continuing experiences with these UFO visits, and he literally has like three or something. And then he has this kind of like upper middle class person's anxiety about fear or something, and then his wife is like, you have to confront your fear, and he has to go out to like the forest at night. He's just very afraid of it for some reason. But I mean, Communion was a kind of a letdown. This one is even more boring, and like there's nothing scary in it. Like I would have been satisfied even if the story is like obviously a self-concocted lie. But if it was kind of scary or like at least I would have called it a thriller. But it's just a nothing burger. So then I set my sights on Nick Pope, the other guy, the British guy.
Oh.
Yeah, the real.
I found Nick Pope very interesting. Yeah, go on.
No, he's more based. He's certainly not lying. Basically, he worked in the U.S. in the UK Ministry of Defense, in a part of the Air Forces. Just
Yeah, like he was involved in the Rendlesham, like in
that
investigating
one
the
was
Rendlesham
bizarre.
forest incident.
Yeah, that one was bizarre. Like he has a few quotes, like the Rendlesham Forest incident, some Belgium radar malfunction funkorama in which like some jets chased a UFO trail on the radar, and then he basically like he basically says the government has to look into this. He's very skeptical of the fringe UFO crowd as well. So there's something.
Yeah, like I really get the feeling from him that like he's not a nut and he doesn't want to exploit anyone, but he just takes these things, like he takes the mere possibility that this could be alien aircraft just that seriously
Yeah.
as like a security concern. And I
Yep.
think he even wrote like his own like sci-fi novel about what would militaries realistically do if it turned out that UFOs are actually alien spacecrafts and they are not here peacefully. Which I always wanted to read that, but I haven't gotten the opportunity yet.
Well, if you find it, it's really nice. I also got his.
Oh yeah, but let me say the name of the novel. It's called Operation Thunderchild, which is an obvious reference to War of the Worlds.
Oh, nice. The book I read was called mm, Open Skies, Closed Minds, and I would recommend it. It's kind of padded somewhere. Like he has these like long and inflated discussions about crop circles and ancient aliens and like cattle mutilation.
And what does
Some
he say about those things?
like basically he says there's something out there. That's all.
Ah, okay.
He's but he puts them all in the same bag. But it's actually what he says about things like the Rendlesham incident, in which, do you want to talk about what happened there, by the way, for our viewers?
Yeah, like it's been a while since I read about that, but I think the basic story was that in this like area in Britain, or I think it was Wales, maybe, I don't know where the Rendlesham Forest is, but basically there was a military base there,
Mm-hmm.
and they picked up something weird on the radar, and then the soldiers there actually saw a weird light in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
They followed it into the forest, and they saw this thing like I think it spit out some sort of magma first, and then it lowered itself, and then it drove through the forest like a train through a tunnel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there is at least one of these alleged witnesses who claims to have even touched the UFO, and it somehow like uploaded a code into his brain. But like it's very silly, honestly, when you watch that guy talk.
Yeah, so, yeah, exactly as you happened, except in Nick Pope's case, he doesn't talk about the brain upload thing. Maybe that was a part of the mythology that was created later on. But I'm very like almost convinced that during those days they probably observed something like a US secret spacecraft test or something, or like a kind of secret mm, stealth aircraft, something like that. And who knows? Maybe it was one of those like magic invisible helicopters they used to hunt Bin Laden with. So there.
Yeah, I think the commonly accepted explanation is that they were just confused by the light coming from a nearby lighthouse.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and then maybe there was just something else going on separately in the forest, and they just connected that in their minds. I don't
Yeah,
know, maybe El Chupacabra was driving around in his fancy car.
I don't know, but I mean, you're right on this matter that like maybe the only mistake Nick Pope has is like he he collages a lot of things together. But when you think about this, these things may not always be directly related. So there. But it was a nice read. I recommend this to everyone. And like he sounds like a based guy.
Yeah.
And
What was the name again? Open Clouds?
open skies, closed minds.
Okay.
He has this like cathartic belief that like if the world government or something suddenly acknowledges UFOs, then something big is gonna happen. But I don't think that's gonna be the case.
And that sounds like it reminds me a bit of Ronald Reagan, who like when Reagan discussed like making treaties with the Soviet Union, he often like tried to come down to a common denominator, where he said like if Earth was attacked by aliens, we too should work together and set aside our differences. Which I mean, like to give Reagan credit, I mean that's a good way to come down to a common denominator by saying, hey, look, we're all human and we have to fight for the human race together if it is
under
like
threat.
destroyed, yeah. And then you can then work on to more specific treaties and peace plans from that, technically.
Yeah, it's a kind of like Dr. Manhattan in the Watchmen kind of thing, huh?
Yeah.
Oh well.
On the topic of presidents and UFOs, like just by pure coincidence, the other day I read that the only U.S. president to have ever filed an official UFO report, like of a UFO he saw himself, was Jimmy Carter.
Oh yeah, I remember something like this. But what did he see? Where did he see it?
Like that was, I think, back when he was still a senator in Georgia, and he was like near a military base, and he saw like a weird orb just flying over a military base, like, and he didn't think it was aliens, but just some secret military vehicle. And I think like later skeptics have proposed that he very likely instead saw something called a barium cloud, which I think is some weird waste gas.
Well, what produces barium? Isn't that like a almost radioactive element?
That I have honestly no idea. I haven't read much into it.
Yeah, I mean, facts aside, I really like the whole mythos of this UFO lore, and I think it reflects in some of your artwork too. Whereas, if I can offer a sneak preview to your followers at Hardeshur, one of the aircraft people use to explore your alternative Mars is this like man-made UFO kind of flying donut.
The Avrocar, sorry. Which was like an actual military vehicle developed in the late 50s, but it like never left the testing stages. And it was like, basically it literally looks like how you imagine a flying saucer, but like powered by a wind turbine in the center.
I wonder if it had two turbines because of counter rotation issues, but I don't know.
Could be, yeah. I don't. And yeah, there are like a whole bunch, like a different whole universe of conspiracy theories about how the famous UFOs, the giant UFOs that people have seen later, were not alien aircraft, but just Avro cars. Wait, it's a bit loud at your end.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's gone down again. It's okay.
Yes.
Like a whole bunch of alternate conspiracy theories about how most of the larger UFOs people have seen are actually descendants of this Avro car that actually left the testing stage and have stayed secret the whole time.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty ineffective vehicle, by the way. Don't you think
that's what makes it so unlikely? Yeah, that the Avro car never left the testing stage because it sucked.
Yeah, I mean, it has no place for fuel. It's extremely energy inefficient. Imagine like basically having a big jet engine, but no plane to attach it to. It's got like, I don't know, like 10 minutes worth of fuel, and it's basically like when you blow up a balloon and kind of like let it loose in the room, kind of like it farts around and flies and shit.
Yeah. But also, you could only fly like 1 meter above the ground.
Yeah. I literally think they got funding for it because it was like UFO shaped and made out of chrome. But what sort of tactical mission that thing would have, I don't know. Maybe a very, very expensive missile target testing, but I don't know.
Maybe scaring other nations.
Oh, well. Oh, well. So, I don't know. There's there for Nick Pope, but I'm really looking forward to reading his other book, which is about the abduction phenomenon, apparently. And really, he really seems to have this like defense bureaucrat's mindset. Basically, you know, the old adage says, to a hammer, every problem looks like nails. To Nick Pope, everything looks like an air defense liability. And he basically, I don't know what he's going to say about abductions, but I'm looking forward to reading it. By the way, do you know, I still haven't watched the Roswell autopsy video.
The famous black and white one,
Exactly.
the hoax one, I mean.
Yeah, but it scares me so much. It scares me so much.
I'm not sure if I've ever seen the full thing, but of course clips of it have always like shown up in like these like History Channel documentaries, and for some reason, like, I have a deep fear of gray aliens, but for some reason the carcass in that video doesn't scare me that much because it looks too human to completely fall into the uncanny valley.
I mean, like when they're like opening the brain and you see the whites of the eyes.
Oh, okay, I've never seen that.
Okay, so you realize that the whole face is filled with two gigantic eyes, and it's really scary. So, like, by the way, Nick Pope talks about this in his book too. Like, so in those days, obviously, there's no internet, and someone who has the film comes all the way to London to give a screening to the UFO lobby there. That's the way he talks about the UFO community. And he says everyone was like laughing and like making jokes at first, but when the film ended, he says some people were actually whimpering in fear. And I don't know if it's an exaggeration, but I could see where he's coming from. Let me just tell that much.
Maybe because the quality was so bad.
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know. So at the end, like, that's the bizarre thing. He says it's either a very good fake or the evidence is right here all along.
Kind of like the Patterson Gimlin film, you know, the one where they filmed Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, yeah.
And there's like it's still being debated because, yeah, it could be a guy in a gorilla suit, but it would be one hell of a good gorilla suit.
Yeah.
For the time it was made in.
And they say like buttocks, the buttocks jiggle, and it's got like realistic breast tissue and stuff like that.
They invented titty physics back in the 30s.
Yeah.
Long before video games.
Was that movie from the 30s? I thought it was the 50s.
Let me look it up quickly. I think,
or even like
because it's black and white, I always keep thinking it's like before the 50s, you know. Patterson.
It is in color, and
you're right. It is in color. You're right, but yeah, 1967. You're right. It's from the 60s.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, dear viewers, what do you think? Which one of the two are real? Mention in the comments, so we kind of like get some benefits out of the algorithm. And if you listen this far, please consider supporting TK Sivgin and myself on Patreon. Especially TK has some nice offerings which you can only see on Patreon, by the way. So there.
I also have a YouTube channel called Manu Spondylus. Yeah, check that out too. I've started regularly uploading videos there.
Yeah, they're really nice. You're using that AI really well.
Thank you. Well, I mean, most of the work is done by the AI, but yeah.
Yeah, one of the great developments in the past couple of months was this kind of explosion of AI stuff. And it's not just Mid-Journey and like drawings with strange hands, basically, but there's a whole suite of AI programs, and looks like everybody's gonna like have these assistants in the future. And
yeah. I mean, that's like the one good use of AI. Like that's like an actually creative use of AI where you take someone's voice and make them say anything for comedic value. Like there's this like one video series where they have, for example, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and George Bush like play video games together.
oh, I didn't know that. Neat.
They're hilarious.
Oh well, I think another side effect of this like AI programs, especially like with ChatGPT, like they write everything with ChatGPT now, and like being in the advertising industry as a day job, like it's made my life easier. You still need to oversee it, but like people write their emails in ChatGPT and stuff. So what I think it's gonna cause at one point, it's gonna create a sort of inflation of text, and basically people are just gonna just talk to each other in prompts and not even deal with the middleman anymore. So email.
That's scary. Yeah. Like I've seen people on Reddit reply with ChatGPT text. Like they're like so lazy to not even write a Reddit comment.
Yeah, I'm just gonna order a coffee. Abi benim bir cappuccino vardı ama
Cappuccino vardı.
unutuldu herhalde.
Sormuş muydunuz?
Aşağı söyledim getireceklerdi. Aha.
Neyse anlatamam mı başka?
İşte aşağıda söyledim siz bekleyin getiriyoruz dediler. Alright, I just ordered a cappuccino because I'm feeling a bit weak from talking my head off. But it's gonna be like telegrams in the 19th century, like send money, stop, all is well, stop. And that's how like a lot of communication, because realize in the present day and age, especially with commercial activities, there's just a lot of bullshit text nobody needs to read. Like you turn the back of a milk carton and there's like paragraphs of shit in there saying, oh, the milk is essential for calcium and happy development at this program, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah. Do you really need that? Just needs one word, man. Milk, no fat. And then maybe one table for nutrition and shit. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the future, like, I don't think AI will like replace jobs. It will simply be another tool used by those jobs.
Yeah,
like,
but
you know, like this thing about like technology will replace all of your jobs, but it's like been an empty threat made mostly by employers for decades. That's just again, like I said, a threat to make people fear for their jobs and work harder and make less demands usually.
yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that people will adapt, but to push back on that, I mean, I know a lot of people who are like, not just, for example, imagine you're in a company, okay, and you're designing packaging for, I don't know, like shit products, okay? So you got like brown shit, you got dark shit, you got runny shit, so you got all sorts of shit in that company. Now, used to be that you used to hire maybe a team of 4 people to design all that shit for the shit. But now, what happens is you fire all the minor designers, and you only leave the major designer. And now he can just write prompts or like just kind of fine tune some of the designs created by this AI. But then the other 3 people now, they are looking for jobs too. They will find jobs, but they will not get practice with Photoshop, InDesign. They will not develop like some of the skills necessary to be a designer. I think in certain, especially visual aspects, it's already happening, and like it's something to be watchful of. Like it's not going to be like they take our jobs all the time, but it's just going to be a tool for basically employers to exploit their employees even more. And I just think that part of it has to be like the transition has to be managed well. I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah, like generally, like AI needs to be regulated because it can be abused for so much. Like there's like now like some AI, I don't know the name of that like you give it a prompt and it generates a video out of it. And imagine if that becomes advanced enough at some point that you can tell it to create like I don't like imagine like some politician says, I don't like that guy, create like a sex tape of him where he cheats with his wife, and then you
but
and like lies run faster than truths, and then you already have done the damage, even if people later find out it was AI generated.
so what happens is that with those scandals, and like in my country, I lived through some. What happens is that even before AI, there would be like severely incriminating audio recordings or sex tapes and stuff. And what people do with politics, it's like something magical actually. They say, oh, it's fake, deny, deny, deny. They made it with a computer, they say. So people already grow some immunity to like that sort of stuff. I mean, I think in politics, like people never kind of like in the last 2 decades, people have lost faith in politics anyways. The belief in facts is no longer going to be an issue. It's just going to be determined by the leader's charisma and just my word against your word, motherfucker, that kind of thing. So not much is going to be new under the sun there, I think.
Yeah, that's
because like especially with politics, people don't make rational decisions, but they make like honest decisions but irrational decisions. That's I think why like I mean in Turkey we saw it this week. So you can be very nice and promise all the nice things and sing all the nice songs, but if the other guy has gravitas, I mean how are you gonna it's just cult of personality versus cult of personality at this point. So that's very interesting, an interesting side tangent. But all right.
We didn't want to talk more about politics, but here we are again.
Well, I don't know. One of my favorite things about our conversations is that.
Do you think aliens have a democracy?
I mean, I don't think if gray aliens, okay, if they really are what we think they are from the UFO phenomenon, they look like they are not single entities like human beings, but you know how like a mushroom is actually like the generated part of a wider network that's underground.
Yeah.
So like they're basically like created by some sort of overmind to come down to the earth and fulfill some sort of task. And maybe they're even like absorbed back into the ship when their duty is done.
I see you take the Tyrannid approach to that.
Not just Tyrannids, but also with like Solaris, written by Stanislav Lem.
Yeah, right.
Because currently the reports are so like inconsistent and so dreamlike that if we take it at face value, it has to be something beyond our experience.
Yeah, I think I said that in a past episode, maybe number 5, like where I said like if grays do exist, which I don't believe, but for just a scenario, they're more likely to be like drones or like machines built by the actual aliens, just for interacting with humans, and that's why they look humanoid in the first place.
Yeah, they're basically like those zoologist puppets. I think we've spoken about this before, though.
Exactly, yeah. But I don't know, it just had like a very funny idea just now. Like, let's imagine they are actually biological beings that are working for someone. Imagine if they have like unions and they're like, you want us to abduct way too many humans. We're being overworked, man.
How would you like to work the probes?
Yeah,
you're just happy up there piloting the ship. Yeah.
the US, so we can't probe so many anuses in 16 hours. We especially if we have to commute to Earth every single day.
Yeah, I mean, like you wake up at your pod in the UFO, and they give you an Excel file, and it's got like abduction 6 a.m. Kentucky, Louisville, and then next abduction 7 a.m. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, stuff like this. So, like, how are we gonna get to there in crop circle, cattle mutilation? So they give you like pile of shit to do, and like you go to the boss and say you gotta hire another person here, maybe one of those
Yeah,
insectoid guys.
And then they have to like deal with like rowdy like customers in quotation, like some like Christian mom that thinks they're angels and well, ask them all sorts of questions about God, and they're like, I don't know.
Or like they say, okay, we're gonna hire some new teammates for you, but it turns out they're these like mantis insect aliens who work for cheaper. So it's like, not these guys again.
Well, have you ever played the game Startopia?
No, but tell about it.
It's a great it's a management game where you're the manager of a giant donut-shaped space station, and like over time, like multiple different alien races visit your station, and you have to build like habitats and houses and entertainment for them so they settle there. So you basically have to build like this space station city, and have to look that all of the alien species needs are met. Yeah, and it's just really like cute and fun, honestly, and it also has like a lot of humor.
It sounds like, is it a recent game? When was it made?
I know that's like I think like from 2005 or something, but it got a sequel on the PlayStation 5 a few years ago.
Wow, nice. Yeah, it sounds a bit like those Zoo Tycoon games.
Yeah, it's kind of it's. I wouldn't compare it directly to SimCity because it's not that complex, but it's it's like Dungeon Keeper from Pitfall.
Oh yeah. They had this thing in Dungeon Keeper saying it is payday, and then like you have to pay all your minions and stuff.
Yeah. In Dungeon Keeper, you also had to look at like all the that the demons don't that the demons get along with the dragons, and that the witches don't fuck up everything. So, and it's similar in this game. Like this alien race hates the other, so you have to put their houses apart and stuff. And what was cool was like the top level of the space station was a biodeck where you could actually like recreate the biomes of each respective planet, so the aliens could feel at home.
Do you think Rhynia had some influence from that, or just a coincidence?
I don't know if Bob played it, but it had some influence on me when I was like restructuring the scenario, I think.
Well, speaking of computer games, like one game I would definitely play if I had any time to play games would be one of those like Jurassic Park dinosaur creator games. Fuck, man.
Like Operation Genesis.
Yeah, there's so many. Like, there's like Path of Time. I don't know. Like, there's so many of those. But I would really like to like spend just one entire week, like not beholden to anyone, just making the dinosaur park of my dreams and just watching these like really well crafted dinosaur models walking around.
I mean, depending on how well your PC is, you could probably run Jurassic World Evolution 1 or 2. Or if that doesn't work, you can just play the old Operation Genesis. That is still a very good game. It's just it just looks limited today compared to modern games, but back then it was amazing.
I know, man. Last time I played any game was in 2011. Little Big Planet, that whole level creation game.
You should get back into video games. Like, so much has changed and so many cool ones have come out.
Yeah. I know. I'm just too old for that, I guess. I don't know.
Nobody's too old for that. That's just fatalistic to say.
Well, I'm still waiting for a sort of nice speculative evolution creature creator game to come out. A bit like
There is this one called Species.
ooh,
Artificial Life, Real Evolution is the subtitle. It's like it's not like Spore where you create the creatures yourself. Instead, you have like literally this like sandbox where you start out with these worm creatures and you simply like change the timer and like they evolve on their own through actual natural selection. So like over time they
oh, it's that game where everything looks like weird worms and stuff,
yeah
and like
exactly. And
yeah, that game didn't get the love it deserved because everyone thought it was a shitpost thing and like created these like stupid looking creatures, but it looks like very well made, like
yeah.
in-game world physics and stuff.
Yeah, I played the
Nice.
Steam version, and it's really fun to just see it, and you can like even selectively breed creatures to look the way you want them, but you cannot directly create them, and I really like that.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So there's
So
that, and then there is also this other game, Adapt, which is like the creature stage from Spore, but as its own game.
yeah,
Which I think you would love. Yeah.
I've heard so many good things said about that. So yeah, maybe one day I'll get around to it. As we approach the 1 hour mark, I am slowly getting ready to sign off. And any last points you want to add?
I mean, did you want to talk a bit more about the UFO? Do you want to talk about this guy, Timothy Good? What's his name?
Or Project Blue Book or stuff like. He has a bunch of books like Alien Contact and stuff like that. I had like so he had a book called Beyond Top Secret, and basically it was in my high school library, and it was one of those books I would check out every other week just to like reread. And basically it's just like a series of incident reports sandwiched with some weird text and like some weird photographs. And basically he argues that aliens are already here and like governments have to disclose them and stuff. But I haven't read any of his books in detail in the last 20 years. So I need to give this guy a reread.
All right. Well, let me think of what I could add. Well, I actually haven't talked about the modern Mario Brothers movie now that I think about it.
Ooh, do tell, man.
I liked it. It was fun.
Apparently, there are like some nice elements of camp humor in it.
I guess so. Like, it depends on how you define camp, but like it didn't have like lowbrow humor that you see in other like animated movies like this, like where they fart a lot and such. And it was just like so full with references to like this, to like Mario and so many other games. It was insane. Like every second you were like, wait, I recognize this, I recognize that. What the hell?
Ah, nice.
Yeah. Also, Donkey Kong plays a surprisingly large part in the movie.
Yeah, and yeah, we should also talk about your collection interest for Donkey Kong merchandise and memorabilia, I guess.
Yeah, it's not a bigger collection, but yeah, it should maybe be the topic of a future episode where I don't know, talk about Donkey Kong Country or something.
Yeah, and like I could also talk for hours about the awesome soundtrack. So let's maybe earmark that for another week.
Yes. Do you have an idea for the next episode?
I don't know, like I think this like freewheeling approach is really good. Unless like you and I both pick some like really nice work of fiction or something, then we can talk at hours. But I
Oh,
think it's,
I recently watched this great movie, Harry and the Hendersons, that you should maybe also
oh,
watch.
that's one of my wife's favorite films, actually.
Yeah. But have you
Uh,
seen it?
no, because we can't find it on Pirate.
Ah, okay.
But she's a really big fan of that film, and she's been wanting me to see it for like weeks and weeks now. And also something else on our to watch list.
Yeah, I'll find it for you, and then you'll watch it, and then we can make an episode about Bigfoot.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That actually would be like, I would be so, I'll be in your depth. Like, if you can dig that movie up for me. Harry and the Hendersons, everyone, and
Yeah,
this has been.
played by the same guy who was also the Predator.
Ooh. Well, okay. I guess. All righty. I think I'm ready to call it a day. And
All
thank
right.
you for this great conversation. I really miss talking with you. And
Thank you too. It's always nice talking with you, and we always have a lot of fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And dear viewers, please comment on this video, subscribe to this channel, and on every other platform too. They're listed below. And please consider donating to TK Sivgin's Patreon. And until next time, that's that from me, CM Kozeman.
It's also been that from me, TK Sifkin. I hope you had a nice listen. I'm sorry about the sound quality. We had to record under some circumstances, but it will be better in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Don't worry. It's the gritty patino of life. Everybody.
Yeah, some people are into that probably.
Yeah. For the audiophiles among you, next week I'll be ready with better gear.
All right. So goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.